Eastern Front, winter, 1942. The night is blacker than ink. The air smells of oil, mud, and blood. Along a frozen trench line near the Don River, German soldiers crouch under blankets stiff with frost. Their breath clouds in the dark like cigarette smoke. One man lights a match. The flame flares. A single orange eye in the dark. A sergeant growls, "Mach thou Zaus." Turn it off. They'll see. But no one knows who they are. Not yet. The snow muffles every sound until one of the men hears something faint. A whisper, like air sliding over cloth. He looks up. Nothing. Then, the whoosh. The sky flashes white. The earth opens. Fire erupts, turning night to day. The soldiers scream one word. Nachthexen. Night witches. Women flying wooden planes, delivering death in silence. In Moscow, the city was still burning when Marina Raskova stepped into history. She was 30, a record-breaking navigator known as the Soviet Amelia Earhart. She once survived a crash in Siberia after flying 600 miles off course, walking 10 days through snow to reach help. When Germany invaded in June of 1941, women across the USSR wrote to her, begging to fight. She gathered the letters, hundreds of them, and brought them to Joseph Stalin. He agreed. That October, he authorized 3 all-female aviation regiments, the 586th Fighter, the 587th Bomber, and the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, the one that would become the Night Witches. They arrived at Engels Airport near Saratov. Their uniforms were men's hand-me-downs, their boots too large, their gloves stiff with cold, and their planes? Polycarpov PO2. Biplanes, wood and canvas, open cockpits, no armor, 2 bombs at a time, top speed, 95 miles an hour. They weren't built for war, but these women would make war out of them. The PO2s had once dusted crops over Ukrainian wheat fields, and now they carried bombs through the black sky. They flew in 3s. 2 planes drew fire, and 1 glided in silent. Engines cut, bombs dropped, a whisper, then fire. The Germans couldn't detect them on radar, their speeds being way too slow for fighters to track. The first missions lifted from snow-covered fields near the Don River. Ground crews, all women, marked runways with flashlights shaped in a cross. They flew by moonlight, stopwatch, and instinct. Frost bit through their scarves. Their fingers bled onto the throttle. Each sortie lasted 20 minutes. Then refuel, reload, and return. 8, 10, sometimes 18 times a night. They had no parachutes. A parachute weighed as much as another bomb, so they always chose the bomb, every time. It was the sound that made them legends, the whoosh of cloth over wind. The Luftwaffe called them Nachthexen. They said the witches rode broomsticks. The women just smiled. They'd painted broomsticks over their fuselages anyway. By 1942, they were no longer an experiment. They were a weapon. Each night began with silence, engines idling, breath fogging, hands steady. No one said good luck. Luck was for amateurs. They flew low, 500 feet or less, over forests and frozen rivers. Below them, Germany's front line. The cold crept into your bones, like it wanted to live there, one pilot had said. They flew into the lines between fear and duty blurred. When the engines stopped, the enemy froze, because that silence meant the bombs were already falling. Nadezhda Popova flew 18 missions in a single night. Her plane once returned with 42 bullet holes. She patched it herself and went back. When Yevdokia Nosal was hit by shrapnel, her navigator landed alone, guided only by the moonlight. Nosal was dead, her hand frozen to the control stick. They flew that night again, every one of them, not for revenge, for memory. The Germans began whispering new myths, that the witches had night vision eyes, that they were injected with potions, and that their planes were made of cursed wood. Fear became their shadow. The witches kept flying inside it. By 1943, the night witches had flown thousands of missions. They were promoted to guard status, becoming the 46th Guards Night Bomber Regiment. Yevdokiva Bershanskaya, their commander, never raised her voice, even when planes didn't return. She stood silent, listening to the wind. When Marina Raskova died in a crash, every plane in the regiment took off in formation that night, their engines roaring like a funeral choir. The Germans tried decoys, false fires, dummy targets, but the witches learned to read light like language. They could tell a real fire from a trap by the color of the glow. We learned to trust the dark, one pilot said. The dark never lied. They bombed Crimea, the Caucasus, and deep into Belarus. And when they returned, frost clung to their lashes. They laughed anyway. To the enemy, they were witches. To each other, they were sisters. To death, they were inconvenience. By 1944, their flight logs filled whole ledgers. 23,672 missions, 28,000 flight hours, and over 3,000 tons of bombs dropped. They destroyed 17 river crossings, 9 railways, 26 warehouses, 12 fuel depots, and 176 armored vehicles. They lost 32 women and 28 planes. The numbers tell you what they did, not what it cost. They ate what they could steal. They slept in their cockpits. They wrapped themselves in parachute silk for warmth. They were the only regiment that stayed all female. Pilots, navigators, mechanics, ground crews. When the war ended, they were ordered to stand down. Their planes were too slow for the victory parade in Moscow, so they watched from the sidelines as the others marched to their sound. The sky had remembered them. The earth had not. May 4th, 1945, their last mission. 3 days later, Germany surrendered. The regiment was disbanded. Their airfield returned to mud and grass. Their planes were scrapped. Their names vanished from the records. Some became teachers, some engineers, and most just went quiet. We lived so long in the sky, one said, the earth felt foreign. In the 1960s, survivors found each other again. Coffee, laughter, and old songs in small apartments. Historians began to listen. Their legend rose from the ashes that they left behind. They had been erased, but the wind remembered their names. The war is long over, the trenches grown over with grass, but in the open fields of the steppe, the wind still carries a sound like wings. No ruins remain, only bits of metal, a broken compass, a patch of canvas, artifacts of women who turned the night into their weapon. Nadezhda Popova, Yevdokiva Nosal, Olga Sanfirova, Yevdokiva Bershanskaya, and Marina Raskova. They were gone, but their sky remains. Visitors at the old airfield sometimes hear it, a low hum, the faint whoosh of canvas and wind. The locals just nod and say the witches are flying again. They were born of war, built of wood and fire, and carried by the wind. And though the world forgot them, the sky never did. Somewhere above the Dawn River, the night still keeps their secret. If you ever stand there and hear the sound, that soft, almost human whoosh, don't look up. Just listen. The night witches are still flying. They called them witches, but they were daughters, sisters, friends, women who fought not because they had to. They had nothing made for them, not their uniforms, not their planes, not their place in history, but they made something anyway. They made fear. For every German soldier who looked up and heard that whisper in the night and thought that death had wings. And they made hope for every woman who came after and who wanted to build, to fight, to lead, and didn't wait for permission. To the night witches, may the sky remember your names, and even when the world has forgotten. And to anybody who's wondering, maybe what war this was in history, this was World War II, the largest and deadliest conflict in human history, lasting from 1939 to 1945, and it began with one man's hunger for control. In September of 1939, Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland. Hitler wanted to expand German territory and reclaim what he called pure Aryan race. So Germany, Italy, and Japan was with him, and the U.S. was with Soviet Union and UK and France and China and many others. This World War II became a battle between tyranny and freedom, between leaders who sought to dominate the world and those who refused to bow to fear. It was also about hate, because at its core was the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others. Yes, so go and do your homework. Go and learn about the wars of the world. I still have a lot to learn. I always thought history was boring. History isn't boring. It doesn't have to be. Thank you all for watching this episode from Tales Told in the Dark.